Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Shomik, just check Shomik.
वीडियो बंद करा।
Position की नहीं दिख रहा। ठीक है, ठीक है। ये लाइट चाहिए नहीं, पीछे वाले भी हैं, वो भी चला दो।
So your
Hello, Velika. Hi.
Hi, Shika.
Hi.
Nice to
How
see
are you?
you. How are you doing?
Yeah, missed you in person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, I sent you an email. I couldn't reply to your message because I saw that I saw you on the list and I was like, oh, Shika is here.
Yeah, I'm also so happy to see you here. Yeah.
Same. Wish we could see each other in person.
Yeah.
Would have been better. Right?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Fine, fine. Although I got survived from COVID.
You had it?
Yeah, I had.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How do you
But
feel
now
now?
I'm fair. I'm better.
Was it
Better.
hard?
Yeah, it was difficult.
Oh my God. But you didn't go to a hospital or anything. You
No, I
stayed at
was
home.
hospitalized for 1 week. Yeah.
Shika.
Now it is, I'm okay.
You're good.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
strong.
fine. Yeah, sure.
Oh, sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah, that was a very difficult time. And
I'm super scared. I'm super scared, to be honest.
yeah.
When are you presenting? Because I didn't see the list.
Yeah,
Are you
next, the second one. The
Second.
second. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
So you are a survivor, as I was.
yes, Professor Gunaman is also a survivor.
Yeah.
I stayed in hospital for 26 days.
Oh, God. Fortunately, I stayed for 1 week.
But that was at the time early, so they don't know what to do. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
With that, so I became a subject of experiment.
Shikha's entire housing society was quarantined, isn't it, Shikha?
Yeah. It was.
Entire housing society was quarantined. There were, I think, 5 or 6 cases in your housing society.
Yeah, no, more than that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. 5 families.
5 families. Yeah, 5
Yeah,
families were.
5 families got.
Hmm.
Anybody? I think one of might be one of your neighbors also. You might have contracted from.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Shavik Desai has come. Shavik.
Do you have disturbance of the sound?
No,
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 no
sir.
disturbance
No,
from
sir.
your side. No, no disturbance
Okay.
from any of the presenters now. So, so you are the chair for the session, Professor Gunavan.
Right, right.
Uzma
Now
will be
we,
assisting
I
you.
have Shika and also Saumya.
Yeah, we have
Yes,
already
sir.
have Soumya with us, our
Mhm.
first presenter. Then
Yes,
we
sir.
have Shikha also now. Shaumik is also there. Apurva Bhatte is also there now. Then Madhurima Vagmare is also there, and Sanjana Shrikant.
Okay,
Is also
so
there.
we,
So all the authors, presenters are there now, and
but we still need to wait for about 6 minutes, right?
yeah. Before that, I will just give certain guidelines to the speakers that they have
Mhm.
to finish in the given 15 minutes time, because if the time shoots off, then the session gets delayed. So kindly, my request is that kindly try to finish it in within 15 minutes. If not possible, you can take 2 minutes or more. Secondly, don't panic if anything happens. uh, if there is a technical glitch, we are here to handle. If it is from your side, the connectivity, then we can shift you later on once your connectivity is rectified. You don't have to panic in that. And still, if you have a connectivity problem, I think you must have sent your presentations with us. We will upload the presentation on the screen, and then you can talk in that if the video is not coming that well. Okay, so don't panic. So be cool, and if everything goes wrong with you, still we have a session tomorrow. We can accommodate you in that session. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
So we wait for another 5 minutes and then we start.
It is very good. It's an Indian way of organizing.
Has been a very good discussion yesterday also, and a very good session today also. Both the sessions have been very wonderful, and we are hoping the future sessions tomorrow, this session and session tomorrow, will be really good. I'm especially looking forward to Nikki's keynote in the
Mhm.
valedictory session, because I always look forward to basically presentations, and especially Professor Gunavan's presentation on first day was fantastic. I think it opened another window for me to think about how you think about vernacular. So that was a wonderful presentation, a wonderful thought, Professor Gunavan.
Thank you, thank you.
I would like to congratulate you on that.
Yeah, it
Is
was
Ranjit
really
there? Ranjit,
eye-opening.
Ranjit,
That's because I have a lot of
Ranjit,
time,
I have not
probably.
seen his.
yeah, Ranjit. I haven't seen Ranjit's face after the first day interaction, so he has been always. Uh, he has put off his camera always.
Logged in.
Uh, I think we commented on his
Yeah.
mustaches on that day, so
No,
he
no,
might
no.
be feeling. Hello,
I'm
Ranjit.
online. Hi, hi. I'm sorry I'm not visible because I'm online with a computer that doesn't have a camera but a big screen. Tomorrow I will be online visibly.
Yeah. No,
Good afternoon,
Ranjit,
Ranjit. Good
Yeah,
afternoon,
we need to
Ranjit.
see you.
Good afternoon to you all. Hi, how are you? I'm sorry I cannot switch on. I can actually switch on my laptop, but yeah, maybe I will try. I don't want to enter into systems, so but I'm following. I'm with you.
So Ranjit,
Great.
you see us on a big screen, but you're still mystery to us. And the mustache.
I will be there tomorrow. Thanks, hopefully. Yes. Sorry.
Sir, should I start the sharing the presentation?
Two more minutes
Let me
probably.
first let the chair and the coordinator for address the attendees and the participants, and after that the chair will invite you for your presentation. Okay, Soumya?
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So
Be
I
be
think
be patient. It's,
Gunavan,
we have a lot of time.
Gunavan, we
Okay.
can start now.
We can start. Are you sure?
One minute is left, so if you want,
Okay.
for 1 minute.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. It's an honor for me to chair this session. The session will talk about vernacular practices of negotiating natures, adversities, and pandemic. We have here 5 speakers. So let me introduce the first speaker, Saumya Kansara. Am I right to
Yes.
pronounce your name?
Yes, sir. You
And
pronounce this name.
Ankit Kumar are the writer of the paper, and both of them from Institute of Architecture and Planning at Nirma University.
Yes.
He will talk about indigenous construction system of hill architecture, a case of Chambia district, Himachal Pradesh. So now the time is yours, Saumya.
Thank you, sir.
Before Soumya starts, I will request my coordinator to introduce Professor Gunavan to the presenters and the attendees, please.
Well, a very warm good afternoon to one and all present here. I have the privilege of introducing our esteemed keynote speaker and session chairperson, Professor Gunavan. Professor Gunavan is currently the Professor of Architecture at the University of Pembagoan Jaya, Jakarta, Indonesia. Formerly, he has been the Professor of Architecture at the University of Indonesia, Depok, Jakarta. He has been the head of the Urban Architecture Advisory Board for the Governor of Jakarta and also was a member of the Master Plan of University of Indonesia Depok campus. He was a jury member of the Wilson Sustainable Construction Award for the Asia Pacific region. Professor Gunavan has published widely on vernacular settlements of Indonesia and is an ardent supporter and advocate of the relevance and usefulness of vernacular in the modern world. Professor Gunavan was the founder of Isvs movement that spearheaded the international seminar on vernacular settlements with its first seminar launched in 1999 at the University of Indonesia, Jakarta. Sir, I humbly invite you to chair this session.
Thank you for this, I think, overstated introduction. I am actually retired from Universitas Pembangunan Jaya already as the president, as you wish, but I'm no longer belonging there. I returned to my home university, Universitas Indonesia, now a member of UI Green Metric World University Ranking, which ranks how green your campus is. And last year we get 900 universities participated, including Oxford. That's the honor for us. So now I think I had already shortly introduced our speaker, Saumya. So you can start probably because you have limited time. Saumya,
Yes,
you
sir.
can share the screen.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the very warm welcome here, and I am very grateful to be present here and presenting my research paper. So I will share the screen now. Just tell me if you can see the screen.
Yeah, your screen is visible. Fine.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just a minute. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about indigenous construction systems of hill architecture, a case of Chamba district in Himachal Pradesh. let me just starting with the background. So where basically the hills are the very core of the human settlement in a way of flat terrain, the hill terrain, and near the water body. So here is a real a part of the human settlement from the starting of the humanity until now. In a way, they present many challenges for the construction and the building structures, as a topography, extreme weather conditions, natural calamities, and rainfall, and so on. So, the state of Himachal Pradesh has been blessed with the various types of traditional architecture systems and styles. So, and it is still standing today in various shapes and forms. So basically, it has many variations and a very ideal study for the hill architecture in a traditional way. So one of the reasons for choosing this Himachal and Chamba region. So traditional architecture shows basically the evolution over time through history, environment, and technological and economical context, in which Himachal Pradesh also varies from region to region, depending about the climatic factors and availability of local materials, which I will talk about it later. One of the main um, factor affecting the settlements has always been the slope for the hill architecture. So basically, topography and the hill conditions are the main factors. Whereas the flat land provides a maximum settlement due to its flat terrain. So I'm going to talk about in details about the terrain and the slope and how it affects the human settlement and the architecture styles of. Okay. Um, Basically, what had happened that due to the modernization, uh, the old construction methods are quickly replaced by the new building designs or modern materials. So basically, the aim of the traditional architecture is to establish harmony or balance between the homes, occupants, and the physical environment. They are a process of years of evolving architecture styles, people's methods, and their experiences, and they are formed into a very stable and balanced, harmonized space with the human style and the environment also. Um, so it is a try or an it is basically a try to understand those old matters and the traditional matters, though to understand and learn from that, and maybe to implement them to define the modern architecture as well. So for the framework, I have taken the literature review in identifying the traditional architecture according to the climates in India, which are hot and dry, warm and humid, composite and cold, basically. In which I have taken the cold region, and in Chamba I have defined various parameters for the analysis, like the earthquake resistance, terrain, climate, spatial organization, building materials, and the construction methods. For the case study, I have taken the Kachamba region, and in that I am identifying one of the four major matters that are evident in this region. So there are basically Katkuni, Daji, wooden frame, and mud, in which I am going to talk about the Katkuni, and through this site information, I will do the analysis individually, generally, and then inference, which is basically a model construction system or the understanding of it. So starting with that, the basis traditional construction system according to the climates, first is origin try, is which the walls and the floors are very thick in the very thick, and they offer a characteristic to not let the excessive heat and the extreme weather condition to come into the house, and they basically protect from the outside weather. Uh, So due to the thick walls, the heat is reduced in the house. So inside the house remains cool and also prevents from the excessive heat temperature. Uh, for that, modern stone are largely used because of their thermal mass and larger time latency. For the warm and humid climate, the basic thing is to let the air flow through the roof to go outside, and let the house be dry as much as possible. So they are mainly made of wooden and frame construction, so they resist moisture, and they let the blow the air over the roof and let the house stay cool inside and also dry. For the composite climate, you have both of the challenges present. First is the humidity, and then hot climate, because the India basically lies in the tropical region. Due to that, both the features they use, that it lets the wind flow let as much as possible into the house, and also the chachas are used so that the excessive heat and the thicker walls are used so that the heat is reduced into the house, and the house is protective from the outside weather as much as possible. For the colder climate, which I'm going to talk about details, but I'm giving the small brief about it. So basically, some of the features are many evident in this slide. The thicker walls, which protects outside the colder climate and keeps inner climate as much as warm possible. There are balconies which use as a buffer from outside and inside, and there are the roof tiles which are curved in the nature so that the excessive snow or the rain is passed through the over the roof, and it does not come into the home and does not affect the stability of home, or also put more weight capacity on the structure as well. Okay, so going into the Chamba district, but basic reason is that Chamba is more challenging in many ways. At first, it lies in the seismic zone, always going to possibility of earthquake, and it has slopes on three types. That the first is the lowest, which is level basing slope. Then there is a gentle slope in which most of the sediments are formed, and there is the upper side slope. It is also covered by the foreign rangers zone. Okay. Basically, the flat land is mostly used for the habitation. For the disaster probability, as I said earlier, it is a high risk earthquake zone, and the construction on slope higher than 45-degree has been observed in the areas, and it's also a reason why many earthquake have fallen off the building that are more than 45 degrees. Actually, its data is taken from the standard heat region menu metals, in which they are stating that slope less than 45 degrees much habitable than the 45 more than this, because of the suspend and the slope resistant capabilities. Uh, so I've taken a case study in which I observed the case of 1975 earthquake which has come in the Himachal Pradesh. There were some of the cases which were observed. There first of all was the basic masonry, which was of mud mortar and the stone infills, has been observed to fail marginally more than any others. The bonds are weaker, and therefore the vibration are higher, and so they export fluids mixins. But the RCC structures, majority of them have collapsed. Although they are strong in nature, the main reason is the inability of local artisans to handle modern technology, and also the rigidity of these structures, that they are not resistant enough to withstand different types of forces. However, the wooden frames and the stone interface have performed significantly better, and the independency of this material have helped to limit the partial conflict. Basically, there are four main construction methods in Himachal. First is card kuni, the second is the chipol, fourth, third is a wooden frame, and fourth is the mud. In card kuni, what you do is that there are horizontal beam present on the every alternating course on the perpendicular side, and they make up the frame structure of the whole house, and the infills are filled by the stone or the mud mortar that acts as a insulation member of the structure. They basically are very stable and very resistant to the nature forces. The other is the G-bolt. It is similar to the wooden frame structure, although in this case, there gonna wood braces are formed, are made to increase the stability of the structure. And in this also, the infills are filled by the mud border or the stone in. The wood and the mud construction are stately fodder. The wooden frame is framed and then it is covered by the mud plaster or the simple plaster. For the mud construction, it is basically a ramped earth in which they compress the ramp earth as much as possible to form the walls and then create the windows and doors in it. For the case study, I have taken Brahmor in Champa, which is a fairly hilly region, and as you can see in the picture, it is on the steeper slopes, and basically it lies between the west of the Punjab and near the Kankara district. Uh, for this settlement plan, um, as you can see, the settlement culture is quite unique in this. The center of the structure is formed by the middle temple in the center. Um, Let me sense. As you can see, my point is that there is a temple of Chauras in that. Uh, 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 it is the center of the every settlement in the Himachal Pradesh or the hilly regions. Outside of the temples, are the nearest are the Brahmin homes, then Rajput, and then the other rooms are there. So basically, it is uh, settlement according to the religion of the people, and it is going from the higher slope to the lower slope, from the temple to the other settlements. So I've taken three dwellings examples from that. Due to the COVID situation last year, I could not go there and document all the possible dwellings. So I have to take I have taken the data from secondary sources and presented my analysis from that. So here is an example of one dwellings, which is G plus one story. Typically, there are dwellings that are basically G plus one or G plus two story because of the high earthquake possibility and also the landslide possibility of this. For the disaster probability, I have taken only earthquake resistance into the consideration because there are many other factors that affect um, the settlement and the house structure also. But it will be a very long thesis, and I guess I will take another year to complete this. So for this research, I have taken only earthquake resistance as a parameter for disaster probability. Uh, for the analysis, there are some common analysis to be present in the every settlement and any house form structure. Basically, for the spatial organization, there is a central cluster there in which every house form is built along the cluster, and there is a courtyard in the center, and all the houses are surrounding. Um, as you can see in the first picture, there is a common course use, which is also used as a social space for women in the cluster. Due to the same religious, they are more
Please,
comfortable.
Soumya, please wrap up in another 2 minutes. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes. The upper story of the house is called Bore Under Monday, which is a dark insulated room. It is the first story which is used for the habitation, and the outside is a balcony or small ventilator. The top story is usually for the storage purposes called chapper, and the balcony is called dakla and there for the functions that there is as I said earlier, there are courtiers, and there are which women use for different social purposes. For the floor sizes and the balcony comparison, there are if we consider the G plus 1 and G plus 2, the first floor is used for storage purposes and for the animal storages also. So it does not require human habitation. Therefore, it is 1.2, 2.1 to 2.4 meter in height. For the first floor, it is usually used for functional purposes like cooking, living, and sleeping. So it is range from 2.8 to 3.2 meter. As the second floor, it is also used for storage, and it's not does not require human habitation. So it is from 1.5 to 2 meters. Uh, yeah. So yeah, as you can see the hierarchy, the front part is the private public space and semi-public, and then goes into private as a hierarchy spaces. As an individual analysis, mainly the materials I use are for the I've taken actually four components to analysis as the individual structures. Uh, in the plane, there are the material used are dry stone, rubble, masonry, mud mortar, dimple, and external flame. So basically, due to the slope, the external masonry is formed outside, and the rubble masonry it is filled as a filler, and there is timber frame which supports the structures. Um, then they in the wall, basically the timber frames form the frame part and the main structure of the house. There are horizontal and vertical frames that are laid out of timber, and the fields are filled with the stone masonry. So
Soumya, you have to wrap up fast because you have already exceeded more than 5 minutes.
yes, sir, just 2 minutes. For the balcony, basically also the same material, and the for the loop, the loop is basically a light material in which the wooden frames are used, and they basically uh, transfer the load axially to the lower structure, which is more of the thicker walls, which is takes the most of the load. Uh,
Would you
so
please conclude your presentation?
yes, as for the inferences, there are basically 4 or 5 main factors affecting the settlements. The first is the topographical conditions, which is very evident in the sloping regions. Then materials construction. Materials like deodar, wood, softwood, mud, stone are the main materials which are used for the construction, and they are due to the regular strategies which are present in those regions. The houses also from according to the sizes. Um, Other is the earthquake resistance, in which I already mentioned that the wood members form the composite structure with the stone infills. What happens that during the earthquake, the stone infills takes the most of the vibration, and the wooden frames stay intact. Also, there is a specific individual ways which is according to their family sizes, ornamentation, and style of usages. and the economical factors that are according to their family and their occupation also. So yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you, Samia. I
Thank you.
think probably your background is in building science because your illustration is so detailed and more concentration on the safety of the buildings and also the materials.
Yes.
And yeah, that's a very academic presentation. But ladies and gentlemen, this session has a mixture of academia and also activists. Our next speaker, Sika Patida. Are you with us, Sika?
Yeah.
Okay. And I would like to introduce her as a survivor of COVID. So she got a first-hand experience. She is probably an activist in Vilnius, a group of artists, architects, and engineers together. So we will see the collaboration of finding. So
Yeah.
time is yours, Vika.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Sika. Sorry.
I am thankful to ISVS organization committee to accept my paper. And I got the opportunity to present for the third time in ISVS. Could you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you. Kindly share your presentation.
Okay. I dedicated my paper to the migrant laborers with whom I used to work. I'm a practicing architect, and in my team, there are workers from Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, and Bihar. And during this lockdown, I couldn't stop them to go to their home. Only 3 families were left with us, and with very small children they had. Because of that, they couldn't go there, but rest of them, they migrated during the migration time. So I dedicate this paper to them. My uh, my paper is based on learning from vernacular to overcome the pandemic. And I have taken a Rajwar community of Central India as case study. Migration of people has always been present in the society. People used to move from village to cities and cities to metros and metros to countries for better livelihood. For the first time in this century, during this pandemic, due to COVID-19, it got reverted. People started looking back to their native places, going back to their home. In this current situation, it is necessary to study and analyze the importance of vernacular architecture. India has the history of migration since ages. Evidence indicated that 140 million of the rural population migrates seasonally, back and forth seasonally for search of job. They end up working in industries, factories, number of unorganized sectors. From this data, we find that around 50 to 60 lakhs rural population go to break-in workers. Daily wages 3.5 to 2.65 crores. And in construction section, there are 4 crore migrants are there, workers are there. And in factories, 3 to 3.5, and in textile, 1.5, and in domestic workers, there are 2 crores. Due to COVID, this migration got reversed, triggered reserve migration in the from cities to villages. Informal information collected from state government indicates that estimated 10 million migrants had attempted to return home as a result of COVID. In the long-term lockdown, pandemic frightened the migrants and made them decide to leave the cities, trying to resettle their lives in their villages, where the virus is not a threat as in the cities. The pandemic made people to rethink about the vernacular settings and learn from it. The aims and objective of this paper is to understand the learnings from vernacular architecture to overcome this pandemic situation. We are going to analyze why the vernacular architecture became so relevant in this time, why people are going back to vernacular setting. The Rajwar community of Central India is my case study. Methodology is adopted to document and analyze the different aspects of vernacular architecture of this community, mainly social, culture, ecological, and architectural and economic aspects. In this study, I have taken from Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Manav Sangrahalaya, exhibition of visual art gallery at Tribal Museum and Tribal Art Gallery at Bharat Bhavan. Discussions and finding will lead to overcome the situation. There is a small video showing the vernacular architecture of Rajwar.
India has rich tradition and culture, which reflects in its architecture. The vernacular architecture of Rajwar community of Central India is unique in its style. It is the finest example of bas-relief architectural ornamentation in India. Such architecture survives only because of its beauty and aesthetics. Its tradition is still transferring to one generation to another. Due to its character, it can be easily identified that this village belongs to Rajwar community. In its basic form and space planning, it is not very different from other vernacular architecture of this region, but in its ornamentation, it is entirely different. Ornamentation is done in the form of painting, sculptures, and bas-relief. In India, the total population of Rajwar community is around 6 lakhs. It is widely spread in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, and West Bengal. It is densely populated in Sarguja district of Chhattisgarh in central India. The vernacular architecture of Rajwar community is the best example of integration of art and architecture. They are so much interrelated to each other that cannot be seen separately. This is the best part of learning from this rich tradition of our heritage. Rajwar dwellings usually are formed around a courtyard surrounded by columned veranda and jalis, of which radiates living, cooking, and sleeping areas. The grain bin sometimes used to segregate spaces. Usually there is only one door and no windows outside. The windows are usually facing the central courtyard. It is common in Indian villages. All the members of the family contribute and collaboratively construct their dwellings, right from procuring the material till finishing. All the dwellings in this region are constructed in similar manner using locally available materials and techniques. Although they are constructed in same manner, but each one is different in style. The dwellings are decorated when they are first built and then on the special occasions on festivals like Diwali, Dashera.
The Rajwar community is an agrarian community and known for its architecture, and due to its character, it is easily identified. They mainly depend on agriculture, where they live in joint family and the whole family works together. They celebrate the seasonal festivals and the social occasions of marriage and childbirth together by dancing and singing. Rajwar maintain their ecological equilibrium with their environment for ages. They have rituals and beliefs associated with trees. They never cut trees which represent their gotras, the family clan. They are named after plants. The clan is named after their plants, trees, animals like Nagvanshi, Dhamra, and other names they have. They also depict trees and animals on murals and jalis in their dwellings. There are different typologies of dwellings. The spaces are created as per the size and the land and the requirements. The large dwellings have the courtyards, and the smaller ones, they don't have courtyards, but they have open spaces in front of their house and in the back side of their house, where they have a body, a kitchen garden behind their house. And the dwelling is I have taken the case study of a dwelling which is constructed by Sahodari Bai and Pandit Ram at Indira Gandhi Manav Sangrahalaya. And here we can see the hierarchy of the spaces. They have the semi-covered veranda that is called Parchi, then closed veranda which is called Osar, and the living rooms are called Bhitar, the inside space of that. And they have a corner dedicated for the deity that is called Devghar. In the construction, they use mud, timber, bamboo, and stone as per the locally available materials and the techniques they know from ages. The foundation is made of random rubble masonry. Cove walls are made with mud mortar, cow dung, and straw. And the covers are cover the roof from handmade terracotta country tiles. And the pillars and brackets are made of the locally available woods. And in the video, you must have seen the total scenario, total features of the dwelling and the features you have. They are so much connected to the nature that everything is depicted on their dwellings. And in the discussion, I found that during the social distancing, the mental illness and the depression was the major cause of, and I felt the necessity to come out of the house and live in the nature, and that everyone has felt the same. During the ban of transportation for months made people to procure locally available material to construct their houses. And even for their food grains and all the food, whatever available to them, they took from the local market. During the lockdown, absence of human interaction, the noise pollution and air pollution reduced, and the birds and animals started roaming around the streets. And due to we can see that the animals were roaming around. Even the elephant also started coming out from the jungle. Due to pandemic, priorities of lifestyle has changed, and the people from urban, they started to think of vernacular slowly. Oh.
Shape and form. Learning.
the shape and form of the dwelling evolves to the natural settings without disturbing the contours. The Rajwar, they never disturb the contours. They usually construct their houses according to the contours. Judicial and optimal use of material makes it economic and climate responsive, so secondary processed material is not used. Multifunctionality of spaces is the planning is important in vernacular architecture. And the design of dwelling, courtyard planning is an integral part of which connects both inside and outside the cluster of the dwelling, designed in such a way that they are interconnected with each other, and it gives a feeling of collectiveness. So I conclude my paper by learning lessons from vernacular architecture and its adaptation in present context. And this is a makes us to rethink about vernacular architecture and analyze it and its advantages for resettlement, redevelopment, and planning of rural and urban areas. And pandemic has taught us to conserve the tradition which can be achieved and proper adaptation of traditional method with modern techniques. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ashika, for this revealing presentation. The picture with elephant is marvelous to me. So the main enemy of nature is human, actually, and also the city dweller who make them uninhabitable to their habitat. So, well done. Okay, our next speaker is Shomik Desai Apova Blut. Shomik will present you will
Yes.
represent all of the team, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You have
So
three authors for this presentation, right? So
that's
you
right.
are Shomik from NITTE, Institute of Architecture from Mangalore. And then Aprova Swabate from SAP University and Akshay Vana Windows to vernacular. I think this is a kind of example of collaboration from three institutions. So they Shamok will present about decoding the vernacular practices of the cold and dry climates of the Leh Ladakh.
Yeah.
So the time is yours.
Sure. Thank you so much for your kind words, sir. I would request my co-author Apurva Bhate to present on my behalf, and my another author will is not present due to some unforeseen circumstances. So, Apurva, can you please present it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So is it visible?
Yes,
it is visible.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I would like to start with the quote that build your architecture from what is beneath your feet. That is said by Hassan Fatih. But are we actually doing it? Like, how are we negotiating with the nature's adversities? So, good afternoon, all present here. We, the team of three, will be presenting our study on decoding the vernacular practices of Leh Ladakh. The presentation will cover the current scenario of the Fang village, the site information, followed by the data collection strategies, conclude with the analysis. Firstly, let me give you the background about the current scenario of India. So our country is urbanizing with exponential speed, and housing demand is expected to be doubled to what it is today. Newer materials and technologies are being implemented in the construction, and this has led to rise in settlements and reducing the green cover on land. The towns and villages are also following the steps of the megacities, keeping behind their climate responsive vernacular architecture. Similar is the story of Leh Ladakh, the cold desert of India. It is a union territory in North India and is famous for its scenic beauty, the highlands, and the Buddhist monasteries. So having a cold, dry climate and complex geology, it is difficult to have proper infrastructure for smoother service operations. So, but as seen from the pictures, there is development and rise in settlements by 5 times to what it was 50 years ago. So Leh's role as an administrative infrastructure center, then development of the tourism sector, diffusion of urban socio-cultural lifestyle, and the region's geopolitical importance are the major drivers for the region's growth. The town has its own traditional construction practices, forming a link between socio-economic and religious practices. Low window-to-wall ratio and wooden frames to minimize the heat loss, and the thermal mass walls for internal comfort are few vernacular strategies they are using. Our research aims to study Ladakhi architecture practices to derive lessons about climate-responsive techniques in the Fang village of Leh district. Pang is mostly the largest inhabited villages of Ladakh and home to 300 odd houses which are inhabited by the Buddhists. It is situated 3,500 meter above the sea level and the average temperature observed is around 5 degrees Celsius. Daily precipitation is average out to zero point 0.5 to 1.5 mm. The region receives the highest amount of radiation, which is why the houses there follow the solar geometry. First step of the research was to study the site and identify the houses which were constructed with vernacular techniques and were above 30 years of age, with modifications done 5 to 10 years prior. Students from the Students' Educational Cultural Movement of Ladakh assisted in the data collection, and further documentation was done over a period of 15 days, both manually and digitally. The data was collected via the sketches, photographs, and interviews on site. And every day the data used to be cleaned and then uploaded on the cloud as a backup. 5 houses were selected from the village to study in depth the aspects of designing, the energy pattern, and the logics behind each block. Located on the western side of the Fang Valley, this 60-year-old structure belongs to the Hanugan family. It was built after the demolition of their old house, which was about 200 years old. Fine quality poplar were used in the structural members like the post, the brackets, girders, and the beams of the old structure, and hence they were reused for building the new structure. Vertical circulation happened through the stairways connecting the floors, plus the step construction allowed air and light flow in the house. Lower level is partially earth berm to store the grains, and the floors are designed as per seasons and have fenestrations complementing them. Like the topmost floor is used as used in summers and has huge openings for light to penetrate inside. The Ladakhi houses they practice dry toilets due to limited water availability and complex geology. So they are operated independently on the different floors but have common pit which is accessed from the ground. The second house is built on a slight contour facing the road and belongs to two different eras. The ground floor is about 200 years old and was initially used as living room for the Churpon family. Around 4 to 5 families used to stay in this house, and the upper floors were constructed and used as living room later on, and the ground floor was completely utilized as the couch shed. Proximity to the Tibet and the influence of Buddhism is seen at a large on the lifestyle and the built character of the region. The building activity is seen as community event that involves religious figures like the lamas deciding the apt day to construct and also the loved ones providing building material to aid the process of construction. Orientation or Vastu also plays a role, like the spaces for ancillary functions were planned in the north direction, and the main door was always placed on the eastern side, respecting the traditional ritual. The next house is owned by the Tibetan lady, located among the cluster of houses facing the main road. So this house is about 30 to 40 years old, and it has been abandoned after the death of the owner and is currently in dilapidated condition. The house is a load-bearing structure around of ground plus one story, where half of the ground floor is earthbound. A small stream flows through the main road in front of the south elevation of the structure, and this stream is then the source of the water for all the domestic needs of the residents. The next house is owned by the Norbu Swang family and has been constructed in two parts. It is located on a steep terrain facing the main road, and the cowshed is present on the ground floor as well as the different levels of the house. The oldest part of house was built 200 years ago and located at a higher contour. And 130 years later, Mr. Norbu's father further extended the house, which today touches the road. Like during the construction of the new structure, certain changes were made in the fenestration, and the old structure had to be merged with the new house by creating new accesses. The house clearly rests on the contour without imposing any change on the nature. South facade observes maximum fenestration to seep the light inside. Overlooking the entire Fang Valley stands this beautiful 150-year-old skill tank house. It is an outstanding example of the traditional architecture found in Leh. The name possibly suggests that it is a central house, as skill means in the middle and tang stands for room. The house was constructed using the locally available materials such as the rocks quarried from the neighboring mountains and pugbu, which are the mud blocks, and wood from their fields. This house sits in the middle of the fields with minimum contextual variation. The elevation depicts a white cotton with three attached prayer ways. So this has religious significance and also adds to the sense of beauty of the house. Parts of the old house are still in use for the storage purpose, and the kitchen is the most spacious and celebrated space in the house, which the terrace and has a terrace on the top incorporating all the vents of the kitchen. It is important to know what the vernacular wisdom every house is using. To decode that, we have come up with two parameters that can help us with our understanding of vernacular design. The first parameter is building envelope and its thermal characteristics, and second is building design. The building envelope and the thermal properties were calculated. So for that, firstly, we understood what are the components. Firstly, talking about the drywall masonry, that is, which was the technique used by the people for wall construction. So this provided the house with an average U value of 1.8 watt per meter square Kelvin, and the roofs they were generally 0.38 meters in thickness and gave a U value of zero point 0.5 watt per meter square Kelvin. So owing to these thermal properties of the wall, roof and the floor, the indoors tend to be comfortable even when the snow sits on the roof for days. Even the average window to wall ratio was calculated and the window to floor ratio, so which was 6.6% and 6.2% respectively. And that showed that these houses have very low ratios that reduce the heat loss from the building. However, this also leads to limited daylight access in the room. The houses are observed to be 3 stories high and around 7.5 meters. The average height is 2.5 meters. So the rooms are clustered very closely to reduce the heat loss from the building. And the average aspect ratio was observed to be 1.3 with a long side facing north-south. So this helps to maximize the solar radiation gain and help maintain a comfortable indoor climatic condition. The ground floor is generally an animal shelter and is placed beneath the main hall as the bodily heat generated, that is the internal heat gained by the cattle, warms up the main hall from below. And moreover, it creates an air insulation to reduce the heat losses through the ground. Buildings in the region are rooted in the complex geology of the area, and it provides the base for a variety of stones available for construction of these buildings. The primary result of this documentation suggests that the houses have very strong dependency on the local available materials and that are available in the range of 0 to 800 meters. The versatile nature of mud allowed it to be used in various forms within the built fabric. Like it took the form of a block. Also, it acted as a mortar between the stones of random rubble, brick, or the plaster on the wall. Dearth of the available timber reduced its usage to ceiling and framing of in the case for having the structure as earthquake resistant. The proportions of the room are determined by the angle of inclination of the sun rays. Since the sun is at low angle, about 33 degrees, the depth of the room is less, just 5.5 meters. So this ensures maximum light is entering the space. The ground floor is always used as a granary and a cowshed. The first floor generally consists of the kitchen, the bedrooms, toilet, and washing area. The cooking activities in the kitchen serve as a source of internal heat gain and help to maintain a comfortable room temperature. The second floor is generally used as a summer room with flat roof. So because they have little rain and it is very easy to remove the snow. Among the other architectural element, the door and window lintels are extensively ornate and inspired from Buddhist monasteries. The sills and jambs are articulated by the plaster bands, which are often colored with red or black. So black color is basically made from ash, and it absorbs the heat during the day and releases it at night. So this reduces the intensity of the cold air from the windows in night. In the recent years, migration from other parts of the country has led to a shift in the occupation, needs, and aspirations, which is often seen altering the traditional architecture character and landscape in the region. The new generation is building reinforced concrete houses, which consist most of the material and labor comes from outside the village. So this way, they are abandoning their traditional houses built by their grandparents and leaving behind the understanding and knowledge of the same. Negotiations are a context in which adversity is expected and unavoidable. Negotiations involve turning points where changes in the environment or process call the chances of settlement into question. So, towards the conclusion, every location on the planet comes with its own set of challenges with regards to the climate and topographic condition. However, the vernacular and traditional understanding offers solution for the same. Over some time, we call this practice as a pearl of vernacular wisdom. The study conducted in Fang village exemplifies the traditional understanding and addressing the extreme climatic condition through highly articulated vernacular architecture, so which has helped the locals to survive for centuries. These native techniques are time tested and sustainable. Hence, greater weightage needs to be laid not only on the documentation but also to decode this knowledge. The results could further be used to formulate inform policies and build houses that have vernacular wisdom as well as power of modern construction technique. So this work is basically a part of a documentation process conducted by Windows to Vernacular in Fang village. Authors duly acknowledge the contribution from students educational cultural movement of Ladakh and the citizens of Fang village and their undying spirit. Every person involved in creating this original work is being appreciated, and we would also like to thank Akshay Verma for supporting and providing the required documents. And yeah, thank you, ISVS team, for giving us the opportunity to present our study. It was a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Apurva and team, and Shomik Desai, and also Akshay Varma. I particularly like your illustration, which is really kind of using that tone of color, express the spirit of the construction and the material as well. And your concluding remark use Victor Papanek's diagram, which is very interesting because he is good designer and anti-pattern. I think that also teaches us about from where we are, we doesn't care about who created that and pattern it into our own wealth. That's probably kind of immoral to Victor Papanek. So,
Thank you,
and
sir.
and your time-tested wisdom as vernacular, more than just building, is also touching. So thank you very much for this team.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
Now I will go on to the fourth speakers. This is a single fighter, Madhurima Wagmaze. Is that correct?
Yes.
Miss,
It's Wagmare.
sorry for mispronounce your name.
Doesn't matter.
She is from TERI School of Advanced Studies in New Delhi. I don't know, probably you are in a planning school because you are talking about the inclusive planning techniques for the sustainable revitalization of vernacular settlements in India. So the time is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you everybody who have joined this session. I am straight away sharing the screen. Is the screen visible to all?
Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I am actually presenting on behalf of both of us, myself as well as my co-author, which is Professor Shalin Singhal. And he's also my guide as I'm completing my PhD from Teddy School of Advanced Studies in New Delhi from the Department of Energy and Environment. And the paper that we have brought together and submitted to Isvs 10 is titled as Inclusive Planning Techniques for the Sustainable Revitalization of Vernacular Settlements in India. Now, personally, I have a background of architecture, urban design, and development planning. So my background basically is also reflected in this paper, where I bring in the elements of urban planning to the field of hardcore vernacular settlement planning, and also bring out the critical need for planning techniques, inclusive planning techniques that we feel are required for the vernacular settlements in India, especially specifically the settlements which are yeah, specifically the settlements which actually are under the pressures of urbanization. As we see that there are various missions that are operational in the country, like the smart city mission, and the historic intricacies of the built and socioeconomic fabric in the vernacular settlements in these cities need to be sensitively as well as strategically handled. And this handling has to be done by a multidisciplinary team and the whole list of stakeholders of the city, which includes the communities, the government, the urban planners, the designers, architects, conservationists, as well as the other specialist group which take part in the development processes that actually happen in the city, which shape the vision of the development of the city. So in the entire in such a situation, it is found that participatory planning techniques, especially these days in the past maybe a decade or so, such techniques have been seen to be effective in case of complex situations like these, and as well as a multidimensional lens towards looking at the issues that are being faced. So this paper basically intends to contribute to the research gap that exists in terms of the planning techniques and tools for the settlements which exist within the cities and towns in India. And there's also a reference here to be noted that here the vernacular settlements or the vernacular component is referred to beyond just the built envelopes or the built fabrics. It also includes the intangible aspects, which has also already been recognized in 1999 by the UNESCO Charter on the Built Vernacular Heritage. This paper actually contains quite a few reflections which were connected to the vernacular element of a larger study, which was conducted between 2016 and 19 by the World Bank and a few partners associated on that particular initiative, which was related to inclusive revitalization of historic cities in India. Now, the methodological approach, I'll just briefly talk about the methodological approach that has been adopted. The vernacular settlements referred to in this paper refer to the domestic architecture and associated cultural practices in the historic cities and nodes in the states of Rajasthan and Karnataka in India. And in terms of the specific methodologies, there has been a national guideline which was drafted in 2014 by, again, the World Bank and its partners, which concerned with the steps to be included, steps to be followed for inclusive urban heritage revitalization. And this paper has adopted a few aspects from these guidelines. Apart from that, an inclusive cities decision matrix, which contains 13 factors of inclusiveness and quite a few quantitative as well as qualitative indicators, which has been developed by the authors of this paper itself in my PhD work, has been used as an analytical tool for this research. And the data against the inclusiveness factors is actually connected through participatory research and action research approach, and has been captured for the purpose of analysis in a 5-point Likert scale. In terms of the participatory approaches, I mean, various tools have been used, including, the initial reconnaissance visits, periodic visits, focus group discussions, semi-structured interviews, specific interviews, structured interviews, and many other such. And specifically in terms of participatory rural appraisals, I would like to mention, which were used in the case of Karnataka, because of the context it asked for it. And the whole standard method of a rural appraiser was used, where the site was selected, which could be either a local building or an informal gathering space, or any other space which was identified as suitable in consultation with the people who were to be, who are associated. And then various focused activities were organized, and the outputs were actually derived in the forms of maps and charts with the help of the participants in a very participatory manner. Now, coming to the first context, which is the case of Rajasthan. Here, the dots that you see on the map are the settlements which were part of the State Heritage Program. And the basic visits actually brought out quite a few diverse aspects of these settlements. The aspects were very large in number, but I've selected a few to mention here. Mainly that the management of the settlements which were immediate to the hardcore, monuments that exists in Rajasthan have been neglected to a large extent. And then there are lots of domestic architecture examples like Havelis in Rajasthan, which are owned by the residents through the hierarchy. And specifically in case of places like Churu, Navalgarh, Bundi, and many other such small towns. So there was an issue about the whole management and care of these domestic Havelis, domestic architecture examples also. And then there were various infrastructure-based issues in terms of solid waste management, water treatment, drainage, and such other things. And then all these issues together were actually resulting into, resulting into the present as well as the future deterioration of these settlements and the environment of the settlements as a whole. And then it is quite obvious to see the associated externalities that are coming up due to the situation in terms of the economic aspects, in terms of the overall quality of life in these areas. This map actually talks about the old course or the old part of the settlements that exist in the towns. And the ground survey indicated that 11 out of the 40 cities that were part of the program have been distinctively transformed, whereas the remaining 29 remaining cities have retained more than 50% of the character. But however, they are also still under the continuous pressure of urbanization. Now, in case of the towns which have retained more than 50% of their character, have maintained it to a quite a impressive degree, and I think I believe through a lot of effort. But then because of that, what has happened is that they do have a better service provision, a better condition of their built heritage assets, a better mobility within the fabric, within the old fabric that the entire fabric that they are built into. And the overall approach of the government towards them is to basically focus in terms of, targeting targeting initiatives which are focused around the direct economic development of these towns, maybe with the help of tourism or such other things. So that is actually the plan of the government for these specific cases. Now, in case of the other towns which have actually been transformed to a large extent, we would see the standard issues that we would find in such settlements, like the congestion that exists in the fabric and the associated pollution and the overall quality of life deterioration that we see. Infrastructure, the status of infrastructure, overall urban infrastructure in these areas is a particular issue. The status of public services in these areas is also another major issue. Encroachment in the public areas along the streets, vending related issues are the other major issues. And then also the old vernacular buildings that are existing in these towns have been quite a lot transformed, which actually is leading to the loss of the heritage asset base that exists in these towns. So using the matrix, the scoring was done for these settlements along the 13 factors. And out of the 40, actually 24 settlements have been included in this paper. And within that also, they have been categorized into 4 types. So we have the first type, which is the prominent and the large settlements. And in this type, in this category, we find that they score quite good on many of the factors, many out of the 13 factors. And there are certain factors which are to be concerned about. And just one factor which is related to the access to financial services, which is seen to be as below average. So that is something which is critical for this category. In the second category, again, the scoring is positive, but not as great as the first category. The second category is the medium-sized settlements. So as per the factors, the factors of critical attention and the factors of specific attention also has been identified for this particular category. The third category is the small and the prominent vernacular settlements. So we have these two, third and fourth is the small and prominent, and the other smaller vernacular settlements, which are not that prominent. So within these two, we find that the third category, we find that there are many factors which need critical attention. And in case of the fourth category, there are lots of factors which need to be addressed in this category, but the most important factor holistically, if you look at this particular category, is that of their economic base. So their sustenance is directly related to their economic base. So that is something which is very important for this category and which needs to be addressed first before anything else. So based on the analysis, various aspects were brought out for these four different categories, or we can even talk about specific case to case also. And that has actually been used to propose the strategies for a holistic development of these settlements particularly. And the maps, actually the graphs are indicating the scoring pattern in case of Rajasthan. There are, in the entire process of the study as well as the analysis part, there were various barriers that also were identified. If we look at specifically the inclusive revitalization of these vernacular towns in Rajasthan, which were quite a few of them were basically related to the way the government actually understands the needs of the communities residing in these settlements, the kind of tools that they have, planning tools, designing tools that they have, and the capacities that they have to deal with these kinds of these issues. And also one of the important factor that was identified is an objective, proactive interaction, scale of interaction between the governed and the government, and also the kind of knowledge transfer that needs to happen between the two, because that is critical for the development of these towns. Apart from that, there were other aspects like mechanisms. I mean, there are very few facilitative mechanisms which are available to the communities so that the transformations can be guided, and also the resources, supporting resources that are needed for the same. Which is then again actually very much closely linked with the choice-based biases that that exist due to the newer technological advances, construction technology advances that we see, and also the economic options that we see that are coming up with the entire force of globalization that has come into the picture since the last few decades. Now coming to the second context, which is the context of Karnataka. In this context, again, we had quite a few number of settlements, but these were primarily the nodes, vernacular nodes, as we termed them, in the northern part of Karnataka, specifically the district of Vijaypura and Bagalkot. So these two districts, if we look at the indicators, development indicators and the development report, they are
Madhurima,
yes, yes.
Please wrap up in another 2 minutes.
Okay. So in case of Karnataka, I'll just quickly, I'll not get into the specifics, but but the process followed was very similar. So the issues were basically identified, and the context was quite complex in this case. So the whole process of participatory analysis was quite deep, and the context was rural. So accordingly, the tools were adopted. And issues were quite similar, but they were quite integrally, connected with the natural landscape of that area. And the issues were identified, and the scoring again was done. And in this case, we find that both the districts, the settlements are scoring really low in terms of all the factors, most of the factors, barring a few. But again, having said that, it's important to note that they have the potential to contribute to the overall development of that region. So that is the reason that they were identified also by the government to look at them in terms of the overall strategy of development that to be adopted for that region. Again, the barriers were identified in the case of Karnataka, and the institutional structure which was essential so that the whole process could be streamlined, because it was a long-term process, was also identified in case of Karnataka. And concluding in terms of the conclusions and the discussions, basically it was understood that the tool that was used in this analysis, the inclusive city matrix, was found to be very flexible as it was applicable to various scales, and the criticality of inclusive planning perspective, as well as a multidimensional lens to solving the issues of vernacular settlements in the cities which are facing pressure of urbanization, was understood again, or rather confirmed through the study. And also the need for a shift of the style of governance from a top-down approach to a more inclusive approach was identified. And also it was identified that in order to achieve a paradigm shift towards our approach to planning the vernacular settlements in such context, it was identified that a large-scale effect is needed, and for which a plural governance model needs to be in place. So yeah, that quite sums up the overall aspects that I wanted to cover. Sorry to rush up because of the lack of time, and these are the list of references that have been used. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Madhurima, for sharing with us your comprehensive, in-depth approach. Because it's not easy to combine quantitative and qualitative involving the community for your data collecting periods. So, and you are also even touching upon politics at your last statement. which is, I think, quite brave for the current situation in terms of to defend the vernacular settlements populations. So I think it's quite a nice contribution to this seminar. So thank you. So I will go on to our last speaker for this session, which is Sanjana Srikant.
Yes, sir.
I would like you to introduce yourself because it's NIL. I'm afraid if I misintroduce you. So
Okay.
now you take your time.
Yes, I'll share my screen. Hope it's visible full screen, or Sanjay sir, are the blue boxes coming again?
Yeah, it has blocked, but
Okay, I'll
I
hide.
think you just go on. I think.
Okay, I'll begin. Jule and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sanjana Srikant, recently graduated in BR from Mysore, Karnataka. My paper is titled as Steps Towards a Right Livelihood, Lessons from Ladakh. The aim of the paper is to rediscover the values of the traditional settlement, not just as cultural artifacts of the past, but as collective wisdom which can help us inform the present. So, to give an outline, the paper can be divided into three major parts. The first part is about why Ladakh has to be looked at during this pandemic. It also introduces the region's geography and climate and the role of Buddhism in shaping the landscape. The second is about understanding Ladakh in four aspects. And the last and the final part is about the lessons gathered after analyzing these four aspects. So, Ms. Apurva Bhatia has already given you an idea of how Ladakh looks and how it is, but I shall give you a recap of it. It is briefly described as a high altitude cold desert. And the name itself, the name Ladakh itself means land of high passes. So it was for quite a few times geographically isolated, and procuring materials from outside and all was very difficult. And the region is characterized by this high amount of solar radiation received in almost the whole of India. And then it has just 4 months of summer and prolonged 8 months of harsh winter. And the river systems are completely dependent on the glacier fed systems. So the end resulting in this is just fertile patches of fertile land. So these are a few adversities. Here is a glimpse of the landscape. On the left, we can see summer landscape of the region, and on the right is the winter landscape. The summer looks quite lush and green because of the availability of water, but the availability of water is dependent on how much snowfall has occurred in the previous winter. So keeping these in mind, sorry. So keeping these in mind, as Professor Pratyush Shankar yesterday rightly pointed out, that the pandemic has made us question, and it made us question a few things like how are we meeting our needs, and what are the terms, what are the things we are terming as our needs and necessities, and how is our relationship with nature. So the common challenge between Ladakh and the crisis now which we are facing is that of managing with limited resources. So our economics, that is literally translated as household management, was in question. And that is why we need to look at the wisdom of Ladakhis, where the alteration to the landscape was minimum, even though they faced adversities on a daily basis. So one of the important factors for this harmony with nature was the role of Buddhism, influence of Buddhist thoughts, where elements of nature are associated with higher order. To give you a glimpse of it, the hierarchy in the society is such a way that the metal worker is given the lowermost status because he extracts ore from the earth, and this is equivalent to harming it, harming the earth spirits or harming the nature. So polluting the nature is offending the spirits, and Ladakhis don't like to do that. So after all these things in mind, let us now look at 4 aspects the paper elaborates upon. First is about the agriculture and water management systems. First, the way people have managed to cultivate crops in such a barren landscape is to be looked at. This involves certain rituals and practices of traditional water management systems also. There is a practice of taking the sacred scriptures around the village in order to pacify the water and earth spirits. This is before seed sowing. After seed sowing, there is this challenge of management of water. So there are 3 traditional management systems identified. First is the truth seed system, where it is a network of channels maintained by a person called Churpon or the water lord. Second is that of Zing system, where there are different ponds at different levels of the village. The third is snow fencing system, where the water is stored in the form of ice, which can be called as a primitive form of what ice stupa does today. So this doesn't stop till harvest. Even after harvesting, Ladakhis perform rituals or puja at household level, where they ask for forgiveness if the living beings or the earth and water spirits are themselves harmed knowingly or unknowingly. So these are 2 pictures of Zing at a village called Sabu. The second aspect discussed is about mud in 2 different aspects. Thermal comfort or the shelter, or rather a dwelling, plays an important role in such a harsh climate. The paper discusses mud in 2 aspects. One with passive solar architecture, looking at it as a physical material, where the appropriateness of the material to the climate and to the landscape is discussed. Here is a picture of Leh Palace, which was shown by Professor Sunanda also yesterday, where this is a 9-story building, and it is completely made out of wood, mud, and wood, locally available wood is used. We have to note that the wall systems, floor system, and even roof is all made out of majorly mud. The second aspect to be discussed here is it is seen as a contributor for community bonding. The fact that earthen techniques are labor intensive, construction is carried out as a community participation event. Various cooperative institutions at village level, village cluster level have come up, which are group of households and are there which actively share different kinds of work. For example, the best cooperative community shares work exclusively in construction, be it making bricks, be it sharing construction equipment. All these things involve people from different age groups, and this also contributes to intergenerational interaction in the society, which is quite missing in the modern times. The third aspect is in the region, nature is revered, but it is also a constant threat. And that is where social institutions like monasteries come into picture. Monasteries are usually seen just as religious institutions, but here in Ladakh, in case of Ladakh, they act as multifaceted social institutions, which were not only a seat of power, maintained law and order in the society, a community center which hosted a lot of festivals, and a bank too, wherein the laity contributed or donated to the monastery, especially for the monks and nuns. And in times of need, the monasteries took charge and lent the people supplies in the form of food, grains, livestock, and even fields to work upon. The last aspect to be discussed here is the concept of frugality. Often frugality is seen as miserliness, but the concept is rather different in case of Ladakh, where it is seen as using the material or the resource to its maximum. So everything, be it agricultural byproducts which are used as clothing dyes or painting dyes, livestock as Ms. Apurva Bhate showed, that they were used in passive heating, and dealing with human waste, where in urban situation or context, we are facing this constant problem of fecal sludge management and all. But here, the human waste is also converted to a resource and it is used as manure for the agricultural fields. So such is the system here. And the question asked is, can we eliminate the concept of waste itself from our systems? Now let us look at the lessons drawn. There are about 7 lessons and I'll take you through it one by one. The way we see the world shapes the way we treat it, and the quote continues. It's a must read by David Suzuki. So if you look at what nature, today, it is a completely different. It is completely different from what our ancestors looked at. So it is necessary for us to look at it from a different perspective today. Understanding nature has to be done in an empirical way beyond textbooks. That is, we all understand photosynthesis, transpiration, and so on. But our ancestors knew which ingredient or which food crop went with which vegetable, or which crop needed how much soil and what kind of soil and what kind of water. So these were the empirical understanding about nature they had. Then the aspect of reducing the footprint. We know that there has been an exponential increase in the exploitation of resources, and therefore, and our Earth Overshoot Day is coming up. It's nearing every consecutive year. So here one aspect to be seen is that the building industry, which contributes to 39% of carbon emissions. So one of the solutions the paper proposes is for looking at mud architecture in a new way, where we create awareness among the general public, encourage mud-based research so that it can be used. It can be used in a proper way, appropriate way, and strengthen codes and standards. And also skill building among the masons, encouraging fellowships, and so on. The Ladakis took effort to make maximum out of minimum, which can be seen as a real meaning of economy. As Shumeshwar described something called rational way of life, the question here is, can we not think of economic models which encourage a change in our lifestyle? Where we look beyond fiscal services and yet understand the value of our natural resources and take steps forward towards human welfare and ecological stability. One of the pioneering models is by Kate Raworth called Donut Economic Models, which Professor Gunawan mentioned yesterday about. The model is already being implemented in Amsterdam. Ellen MacArthur Foundation is doing great work in the field. Today, most population is growing towards global consumer class, and statistics tell us more about it. But it is well documented by scholars, travelers, that traditional Ladakis led a very contented life. So again, amazingly small means led to extraordinary results. So can we differentiate between essentials and non-essentials and become conscious consumers? If at all, it's very difficult in an age of globalization and consumerism to make a sudden shift. But can we take these steps? Wherein one of the important steps becomes to become aware of where our product is coming from, how are we using it, and how is it going to end, and how much energy it has consumed while reaching me. So these can be the questions that can be asked. And the 6th lesson is about cooperation over competition. If we just imagine Ladakh to be a competitive society rather than a cooperative one, we would not be studying it today, probably. And any change comes in with a collective effort, and that is where cooperation comes into picture. Finally, we have the With all the above aspects, we move towards one of the eightfold paths in Buddhism, the right livelihood. In Ladakh, it seems a villager said there is no point in possessing the land you cannot work upon. And moreover, here the land is measured in terms of 1 day, 2 day, depending on how much time it takes to plow it. Such is the honesty there, and uh, probably we should all think about it. The right path of development, both inwards and outwards, is the need of the hour. To conclude with, I would like to end by what Albert Einstein said once, and probably it's applicable today also. The world will not evolve past its current state of crisis by using the same thinking that created the situation. So probably we can all bring in a change by collective effort, and traditional settlements like that of Ladakh and many more presented in this seminar will stimulate our thoughts towards it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjana. I think you enrich what I had already said yesterday. It is quite, you are so young, you still can go to so many steps of livelihood, which you are addressing. And I think what you mentioned, words remind us about to come back to ecology and economy are both from household, right? Oikos. So
Yes.
based on that standing, the scholars yesterday I mentioned, which created the donut economy, are using household management as the base.
Yes.
So rethinking about economy. And unfortunately, Sanjana, most decisions on how we live are made by male, which is about 40 to 50 years of age. They usually forget that they used to have a childhood, they used to be an adolescent, and they will be growing old, and they will die. So that's also what they forget. Mostly male, not female. Female is probably now increasing. So be aware of that. I think you can contribute a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So
I'll request all the panelists to put on their cameras, please.
yeah. Yeah, I forget too. Okay. In this session, we witnessed a lot of presentation, mostly very analytical, and then we have overview of methodology on how to make a comparative analysis on various vernacular settlements, which is very good, I think. And one or two had already touched upon the qualitative aspect, tangible and intangible aspect of vernacular settlements, which is also quite revealing. So now I think some question were asked, which is in question and answer box.
Yeah.
I now saw. Yeah, okay. You may also read the question.
Yes, sir. There's a question by Aina Sharma stating that can you please tell the binding material used in place of Katkuni to Apurva?
This is to Xiaomia, right?
Soumya Kansara, is he there? No. Shamik Desai is there.
Yes, I'm here, sir.
There is a question for your presentation.
Yes, sir. Please tell me.
Yes, I'll repeat the question by Aina Sharma. Can you please tell the binding material used in case of Katkuni?
Binding material in case of
Katkuni, Himachal Pradesh, the vernacular uh, technique of Katkuni.
um, okay, I'm
Not
not
present on Katkuni. You are asking the wrong person. Shomik's presentation was with Apurva on Ladakh, right? Apurva?
that's right, sir. Yeah.
No, it was Soumya who had presented on Katkuni,
Yeah,
and who is
Xiaomia, Xiaomia.
Yeah, that was Soumya, and Soumya Kansara was there. And Ankit,
Soumya and Ankit.
Soumya is not there, but I think Pratyush or I can answer that.
What is that?
It's the binding material for Katkuni.
Well, depends. Firstly, Katkuni is a generic construction type. It is not. It's not an architectural typology. It's just a construction technique. And conceptually speaking, Katkuni uses two material. It uses wood and stone together, and the consideration are essentially seismic consideration. Often, when stone is used, it will depend where it is. You would have usually mud mortar that would go with the stone blocks. So, if that is the question, it would be mud mortar in most of the cases.
Yeah, you can see such kind of binding material in Kholi also. You can see it in some at a certain level in Dhaji Diwari also at the below the plinth level. Usually it is
Right.
mud.
I will just continue. Soumya is not here, but I'll just take the liberty since you asked me to answer something. I'll also ask some questions. And
Oh, yeah.
since my
Sure,
area of
sure.
interest is the Himalayas, firstly, Apurva, it was very nice to see very beautifully drawn sections and plans. And I see, sometimes there is a value to drawing things well as our first step to understanding. So thanks for showing such beautiful illustrations. That was really, really very refreshing to see. In fact, Professor Gunawan, even I was wondering about the first presentation, about Soumya's presentation. Whereas we have gone through these stages of documentation, and that has happened almost decades back. But now we need to begin to make much more kind of other arguments about change, about adaptability to new things, about the fact that there is a definite change that is coming about. Uh, and we have to be able to relate with larger ideas of maybe post-COVID, of pandemic, or the nature of transformation of the community itself. That is where, Sanjana, I would also, in some sense, like to challenge your work I'm playing the devil's advocate here, a kind of an imagination of Ladakhi people and Ladakhi society being some kind of a Shangri-La, as if they are back of the beyond, living in an ideal state with, but actually, if you were to do good anthropological studies, good social surveys, the kind of work that, Madhurima has been doing, you really understand the reality on the ground, and the reality on the ground are far, far more complex. There are land pressures. You must understand that there is a huge amount of trade activity that is a historical trade activity. So you also have to look at Ladakh as a very important mercantile town. It has a huge mercantile history. There is a lot of new things, new development that is taking place, and then you have to pose these questions of environment and ecological balance, because in the absence of those grounding, my worry and my fear is that we will keep repeating ourselves, and there would be an exhaustion of how much we can romanticize a relationship that we know for sure now for decades. So I think I would, as a young scholar, I would also like you extend yourself to much more, I would say, rigorous fieldwork that can bring the real truth out of out of this kind of a complex readings. In some sense, Madhurima, your presentation, I was very much impressed as to how you were able to pinpoint the exact problems that the conservation efforts of vernacular is going to face. Things like, you said it in some very nice terms you use, suspicious of old technology or a aspiration for new technology. Somewhere I read those. And I think those are the terms we would need to be able to discuss along with documenting the past. And I think once we do that, we are better prepared. This is more like a comment, and of course, wonderful documentation all of you have presented. Nothing, but I'm also looking towards opportunities to extend these arguments forward. Sorry, Gunawan, I just barged into this.
No, it is okay. Do you like to respond to Pratyu's comment, even though it's a comment, but you may also.
I would like to say something here. What Pratyush has said, uh, that we quite a number of researchers in vernacular are basically busy romanticizing vernacular architecture. But I see it from a very different perspective because the society is transforming, and the vernacular society is also transforming itself. There is and how this transformation is coming in. This transformation can be in terms of their religious beliefs also. I studied a tribe in Arunachal Pradesh, uh, uh, and that tribe, which was now, which is more than 97% is Christian. So how this whole religious landscape has changed and how it has impacted on the living environment of the community, and how the house, which had the traditions previously, how those traditions have been embedded with the Christianity itself. So that this kind of transformation is very interesting to study, and I think we should look into these kind of transformation, and we should also look into how modern technology can be brought in vernacular typologies, and how the vernacular typologies could evolve through that, because we are seeing in vernacular settlement that modern typologies are coming up. The concrete is coming, paving its way in a vernacular settlement. But if we are able to have certain kind of research which basically looks from a perspective of vernacular, but how fusion of modern technology can be done, keeping in mind the ethos of the whole place. So I think those kind of thoughts need to be further pondered upon. That's I think.
Okay, Sanjeev. I think you are also a kind of senior lecturer or professor. Pratyush also. Now I would like to hear about the younger generation's opinion. Okay, let's speak. It's you have freedom. Okay, Madhurima.
Yeah. I actually would like to share my experience because I got a very good opportunity to look at. I mean, I work at the scale of cities, so I got a very good opportunity to look at the vernacular part of the city at a large scale during the project that I was involved between 2016 and 19. And some of it actually was also reflected in the presentation and the paper, that the kind of criticality of the situation was initially, actually it scared me, because the kind of forces that we are seeing, transformatory forces, COVID is one of them. Beyond that, it is the whole mindset that we have about the entire process of development, process of the whole approach to development, which actually trickles down from the economic strategy that we adopt at the larger level, any larger level. So whatever strategy that we adopt at that level, it trickles down to the different fields, and it is actually affecting the vernacular, definitely, and it is going to affect in the future. So that is why it got reflected in the recommendations, it got reflected in the strategies, it will be definitely reflected in whatever work I do. And the fact that that large scale work is required, because what happens is that when we get really caught up into those smaller, very, very beautiful elements of vernacular that we find with in specific areas, and we bring those out really well, but the pressures are of a larger scale, of a greater scale, and in order to tackle that, we need to do something about scaling up the whole to basically to devise an approach, a development approach which is applicable at a larger scale, maybe at a scale of cities, because now today the government is actually looking at cities as a unit, has started to look at cities as a unit since the last 10 years, and that approach is there. So now slowly you find that all the right things need to be brought in by specific groups of people. Like, for example, the social people are bringing in the social elements. Similarly, the vernacular people who actually have worked on vernacular architecture, have the understanding about it, need to scale up and actually start integrating their work with the city planning policies, city planning strategies. So I think so personally, that is what I thought, that I mean, there are different ways in which it could be done. It's a very, very challenging job, but challenging work, but that is something very critical in terms of the future few years, and of course the long term also. So we need to take those steps at this moment. I think so we are at that juncture where this is required.
Great. Free to speak.
Otherwise, actually, pilot level work, we have numerous work, we have good work, we have people to do that also, and it is successful. I mean, we have numerous examples, and it is going to be successful. Nothing can break that. But this large scale work is something which is important.
Yeah, you combine your methods and involve the community, which is great, I think. Do you have something to say, Sika? Because you stay at the middle, you can make a bridge between the senior and the junior.
I feel that what the academic research that these people are doing, it should be go to the people. It should reach to the people, because the practicing architects, they don't know about it. What are the research is coming up, and the people are doing research so intensely, it is not coming up to the practical. It should come to the practicing architects so that it can be implemented properly.
Wow, it's remind me of when I became a student studying. My professor told me, research kill design. So what do you think?
No, I saw
because
that
design need creativity. You need to be creative, but it will be killed by research. So what do you think about that?
No.
Ranjit has a question for Sanjana. Sanjana,
okay.
Ranjit has a question for Sanjana. He wants to know,
please read it.
Sanjana, you mentioned mud as a complement to community ties, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
His question is, could you please explain what this means and how this manifests as in Ladakh?
Sir, there are many techniques in earthen construction which is labor intensive. That is, rammed earth requires a lot of people. Especially, I'm talking in terms of traditional Ladakh, where people came together. It was a community event where everybody did it together. It is a group of households like Fastfoon or Bess or Langse. These are communities, cooperative communities which form groups among the households, and they share specific work. For example, in cooperative community of Bess, it's a group of households which come for exclusively construction activities. They share construction equipment, ramming equipment, and even pugboos, that is the local bricks, they are done together, and it is done by all the people of all ages. The group shares, the work is shared among different age groups. So, in a way, the old can share their wisdom with the young during that process. So, it's an intergenerational interaction, which I mentioned. So, that is how the it contributes to community ties, is what I was trying to tell.
Okay, thank you. Apurva, do you want to say something in response to the comments of senior?
Yeah, I think I agree with Madhurima what she said, but somewhere I think commercialization has taken a pace in the in the new generation of architects. So that is somewhere making the vernacular thing taking a back seat. So we need to get the vernacular architecture ahead, and maybe I think there we can design some policies. Maybe in the regions where the resources are ample and they can be used to their potential. So we can have some policies, some incentives designed on that. This way we can go ahead. I think I have such an option.
Yeah, you have raised a
Oh,
very good question. Yeah.
okay, Pratyush, you want to say something?
In fact, Professor Gunavan, what I feel that this generation is far more sensitive to vernacular, far more sensitive to ecology and question of
Yeah,
sustainability
I agree.
than perhaps the student generation that were in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
90s, I remember my generation was absolutely drunk over liberalization and free market economy. And so I find, in fact, I disagree with Apurva. I find your generation is in a very is highly sensitive, and it is very well aware because it
Yeah.
has also seen the climate crisis. It has seen disasters, and we are today talking about that development is not linear. There has to be a cyclic element in the way we look at our own world. And
Yeah,
this is
probably
a generation
spiral.
that is leading the.
Yeah, okay. Now let me say something. Why I very agree on India. And I put a lot of expectation to Indian, especially the youth. Why? You are the people who create zero. Without zero as a concept of empty, we don't have today's calculus. So you guys are very smart people. Just now you have to overcome what the colonialism had left. That's why in my last slides, I raised Gandhi for you. Okay, so go ahead and do your work. Be critical. That's what you need, I think. So that's why I give the estafette to Produce. It's a very, he's a very manageable guy, and I think I put a lot of expectation to probably someday we don't have vernacular as the kind of depressed person anymore. That's what we need to go on and give all of this subaltern concept disappear. Okay, good. I think the time is quite. Okay. Let me see. Any?
Add something here.
Oh, okay. You can have your word.
Yeah. So just like a quick insight, I mean, I'll very briefly share my architecture journey or through vernacular journey. So as a kid, that vernacular, it sort of means that it is just very very well decorated wooden pieces or stone pieces and so on. But I think the moment we start looking something into more depth, and then we start to get the value of it. So for me, vernacular has particularly my journey with vernacular has evolved a lot over a period of time, and I primarily very much sort of also directed by the designer named Victor Papanek, where he says that it's the vernacular function. It's not just about people and the places. It's much more beyond that. It's an integration of method, association, the aesthetics, need, the telesis, and the use. So that's where the moment we accept that it is a complex interaction, we then start to look at it very in a very sensitive manner, and we try to be aware about it. So I remember one example from Rajasthan. So there, the method of trading in that time was, the amount of the weight of sandstone that they will carve, they will be paid based on that. They will be paid based on that. So it is not just about the people and places; it's also about the economy that comes into the picture. So that is where I just wanted to share these thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, great, great. I see in the panelists, there's Sumur and Visa. Do you want to say something? Professor Visa? Or my friend Sumur? Are you with us?
Yes, yes, here I am. I'm
Okay.
quite amazed with this young generation. I am in full agreement with you.
Okay,
This
Professor
amazed me.
Visa, do you have something to say? You are senior, of course, but this is the opportunity for us to say something to our junior to encourage them to do something outside of the box.
Yeah,
No,
we have to go outside the box. Architecture is not just a box. This is just a boundary we draw in this whole complex world just Pratyush just mentioned. We cannot study things in isolation. If we want to know, to understand architecture, yes, this is that's why I'm very happy having these lectures from young generations. It's quite amazing to me. And I look forward for a bright architecture from the East, not only West. Okay, maybe that's all.
That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry. I just remember when I studied as a student, the classic book by Christopher Alexander, Notes on the Synthesis of Form. He uses Indian village as an example to make a
Yeah,
synthesis.
you're right.
So India is a very special space anyway. So now I would like to return the mic to the committee. Sanjeev, now your task. Sanjeev.
We had a very long day and we had wonderful papers today. And Velika, thank you very much for your wonderful keynote address. And that was that also informed us a lot about Macedonia. I myself was not aware that much about. And today, tomorrow we have 3 sessions. And in the first session, the sub-theme is Origins and Manifestation of Vernacular Architecture. And then we have Transformation of Vernacular Settlements as session 2. And we have a very interesting keynote address by Professor Miki Desai, which is on We the Modern Architects. So I think that will be a wonderful keynote address by Miki. And I hope we will, at the end of the conference, we'll take back some very wonderful memories and intellectual discourses which we have gathered from this. So we would like to make a closing for this day, make it for the day. And thank you very much. Thank you all the panelists, all the speakers. Thank you, Professor Gunavan. Thank you, Professor Vishakha Kawathekar for chairing the sessions, and Professor Pratyush Shankar who chaired the first session. Thank you very much, all of you, and we will meet tomorrow at around 10 a.m. with the first session. Thank you very much, and have a good day, a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Professor
Thank
Gunavan. See you.
कल्चर नहीं समझने की कोशिश की क्या